In a surprising and dramatic turn, Donald J. Trump has achieved what few leaders in modern history have done: return to the presidency after a defeat. Trump's victory in the 2024 election has shaken the foundations of American politics, reaffirming both the power of his base and his vision of a radically different country. With a campaign focus based on the economy, border security, and an America First stance even more pronounced than in his first term, his return raises questions about the future of the United States and its role on the global stage. For millions of Americans, this victory represents a second revival of conservative values. For others, it is a wake-up call that could define American politics for generations. Trump began his 2024 campaign with the slogan, "Take Back America," a clear reference to his promise to restore what he and his supporters consider the order and traditional values that define the United States. Trump's strategy to return to the White House focused on a direct and confrontational speech, speaking of the crisis of values and the need to return economic and social stability to the country. From the first days of the campaign, Trump emphasized his intention to reverse the progressive policies of the previous administration and regain the prominence of the American industrial economy, prioritizing the national worker over the interests of global markets. Trump's campaign had the unconditional support of millions of voters in the so-called states' Rust Belt, such as Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, where many communities have experienced economic stagnation and job losses in traditional industries. At massive rallies, Trump spoke of bringing back the jobs Washington forgot, and unveiled an economic program that promised to cut taxes, eliminate regulations, and prioritize American companies in government tenders. On the other hand, Trump managed to attract new voters among the working and rural classes, uniting his base with a speech that emphasized national identity and economic independence. With rhetoric that appealed to security concerns, migration, and patriotism, his message resonated especially in a context of growing social tensions. In the debates and speeches, Trump was forceful. "This election is about who is in charge of America. We are not going to allow other countries or elites to tell us how to live." One of the most controversial issues of the new Trump administration is its stance on foreign policy. During his 2024 campaign, the now president adopted a strategic isolation approach, an expanded version of his America First policy that proposes a partial withdrawal from international commitments to concentrate resources on domestic defense and prosperity. Trump promised greater independence for organizations such as NATO and a drastic reduction in funding for military and diplomatic operations abroad. The relationship with China was another central point in the campaign and continues to be so in his second term. In his victory speech, Trump reiterated that his administration will take a tough stance in competition with China, which he sees as a threat to the American economy and security. His administration has proposed more aggressive tariffs on Chinese goods and announced sanctions on Chinese technology companies, hoping to relocate some industrial production to U.S. soil and create more manufacturing jobs. At the regional level, Trump's policy in Latin America is also undergoing a hardening. Immigration control has been one of the cornerstones of his rhetoric. The administration is seeking to reformulate trade agreements, imposing strict conditions and applying more rigorous security measures on the border with Mexico. The border wall, a symbol of his first term, has once again been a priority on his agenda, promising the completion of the structure and the expansion of border surveillance with advanced technologies. Trump's return to the White House has brought with it an economic vision deeply rooted in economic nationalism, characterized by the promotion of American industry and a drastic reduction in regulations. The Trump administration maintains that the key to revitalizing the American economy lies in strong deregulation and incentives for domestic companies. The first days of his mandate have seen executive orders that eliminate environmental and labor regulations considered excessive, with the justification that these measures will allow for greater competitiveness of companies and job creation. In the energy field, Trump has reiterated his support for the use of fossil fuels and has promoted a series of oil, gas, and coal exploitation projects, with the aim of making the United States completely independent of energy imports. By removing environmental restrictions, the president seeks to make the most of national resources and open more jobs in related sectors. This decision, however, has raised concerns among environmentalists, who fear that climate change will accelerate due to deregulation policies. Trump has also promoted a new tax incentive program for American companies that bring their operations back to the United States. In an attempt to reduce dependence on foreign manufactured goods, his administration has introduced a series of additional tariffs and taxes for companies that keep their supply chains in countries with low labor costs, hoping that this policy will bolster domestic production and re-establish economic independence. The 2024 to 2028 Trump administration has made clear its commitment to policies that reinforce what it defines as traditional values. From the earliest days, The president has signed orders limiting the inclusion of diversity and equity studies in the education system, proposing an educational approach he calls patriotic. In the education system, Trump has implemented programs that prioritize American history, focusing on the achievements of the Founding Fathers and what he describes as the nation's greatness, criticizing previous initiatives for promoting divisions rather than fostering patriotism. The administration has also proposed social media measures that allow companies to sanction content deemed un-American, sparking a heated debate over free speech. Trump has argued that digital platforms should protect American truth and morality, presenting this regulation as a measure to prevent the proliferation of content that, according to him, erodes national values. Regarding immigration, the Trump administration has imposed new restrictions, eliminating several asylum routes and limiting work opportunities for migrants, particularly those from countries with high migration to the United States. In addition, his administration has given the green light to expanding the border wall and strengthening border surveillance, with drones, sensors, and additional troops, a promise that has gained widespread support among his followers. Trump's re-election has also reinvigorated his opponents. Since his victory, Democrats and activists have expressed concern about what they see as an authoritarian turn in government. Human rights organizations have pointed out that many of Trump's policies on immigration, freedom of expression, and environmental protection violate fundamental rights. In progressive cities such as New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, opposition to Trump has intensified, with protests and demonstrations against his policies, especially those related to immigration and civil rights. Activists have also launched campaigns to resist education reforms, and in Congress, Democratic representatives have attempted to block several proposals, although with limited success due to the Republican majority in the Senate. Additionally, climate activism has strengthened, with young environmental leaders criticizing Trump's deregulation policies and the expansion of fossil fuels, arguing that the long-term climate impact will be devastating. This movement has gained momentum both domestically and internationally, with leaders from several countries questioning the United States' commitment to environmental sustainability. Trump's return has altered the balance of international relations. The policy of strategic isolation has caused friction with traditional allies, especially in Europe, where leaders such as the President of France and the German Chancellor have expressed concern about the United States' withdrawal from global cooperation initiatives. The lack of compromise on issues such as climate change and multilateral trade has generated tension in international forums, and relations with the European Union have become strained as Trump imposes restrictions on exports of European goods. In contrast, conservative leaders in countries such as Brazil, Turkey, and Hungary have expressed sympathy for the new administration, strengthening ties with Trump and establishing an alliance of values based on nationalism and economic independence. China, however, represents the biggest foreign policy challenge for the Trump administration. His second term has intensified the rivalry with the Asian power, increasing trade restrictions and applying a policy of sanctions against Chinese companies. This strategy, which seeks to reaffirm the economic supremacy of the United States, has caused tensions not only in the markets but also in diplomatic relations, increasing the possibility of a long-range trade conflict. Donald Trump's return to the White House is an unprecedented event that will leave a lasting mark on the country. His radical policies and confrontational style have revitalized economic nationalism and social conservatism in the United States, shaping a country that is more isolationist, more focused on traditional values, and more disconnected from international organizations. For his followers, Trump represents the voice of the real America, a figure who is not afraid to confront the elites and fight for the well-being of ordinary citizens. But to his critics, his presidency is a symbol of division, a return to an era in which civil liberties and the environment are sacrificed in the name of national security and pride. His second term could be both a reaffirmation of his movement's power and a polarizing chapter that determines the future direction of the United States. With half the country supporting his policies and the other half firmly resisting them, Trump's legacy in American history will go down as one of the most complex, controversial, and defining of the modern era.